Have you ever wondered why, no matter how kind, gifted, or loving you are, people still reject you? It's not your personality, your looks, or even your flaws. It's your light. The very thing that makes you chosen is the reason they turn away. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll finally understand the truth about who you are and why they couldn't handle you. People often say they want honesty, depth, and authenticity until they meet someone who actually embodies those things. Chosen ones are different by design. You're not here to blend in. You're here to wake people up, and that alone makes you threatening. Most people are asleep in their comfort zones, addicted to surface-level living. When someone like you walks in, a mirror to their potential and their unhealed wounds, they panic. Rejection is not just social discomfort, it's spiritual resistance. Your presence makes people feel things they're not ready to confront. You trigger a deep internal reaction in others, because without even saying a word, your energy speaks volumes. You shine light where they've been hiding darkness. And what do most people do when they're confronted with their shadow? They run. They criticize. They project. They reject. This is why, since you were a child, you've probably felt out of place. Maybe even in your own family. You weren't like the others. You thought deeper, questioned more, felt everything intensely. While others laughed at surface-level things, you were thinking about the meaning of life. While your peers sought approval, you were craving authenticity. You weren't trying to be different. You were different. And they noticed. That difference, that divine fingerprint on your soul, made you stand out. But instead of being celebrated, you were often dismissed, misunderstood, or pushed aside. It hurt. It confused you. You wondered what you did wrong. You tried to shrink yourself, adjust your energy, dim your light. You thought maybe if you could just be less, they would accept you. But that never worked, did it? Because the rejection wasn't about you being too much. It was about them not being enough for the level you operate on. This is spiritual truth. Light attracts darkness, but it also repels anything that isn't ready to rise. Your rejection is often confirmation that your vibration is higher than the environment you're in. Think about it. Have you ever entered a room and felt tension instantly, even though no one said a word? That's your energy clashing with low frequencies. And those frequencies, whether they exist in people, places, or situations, feel your light before you even speak. And so, they reject. Sometimes subtly, with distance or silence. Other times blatantly, with cruelty, gossip, or betrayal. Either way, the universe is sending you a message. You don't belong there. Not because you're flawed, but because you're evolved. Rejection is painful, yes, but it's also protection. It's how the divine redirects you. It's how your soul stays aligned. Imagine if you were fully accepted by people who secretly resented you. Imagine if you stayed in circles that were rooted in jealousy or small-mindedness. That acceptance would come at the cost of your authenticity. You'd be trading your truth for comfort. But you're not here for comfort. You're here for purpose. So when that rejection happens, pause. Don't spiral. Don't internalize it as failure. Ask yourself, what was this rejection really revealing? Maybe it showed you someone's true character. Maybe it cleared space for something greater. Maybe it forced you to depend more on God than on people. Every no that broke your heart was also breaking chains. Chains of codependency. Chains of false identity. Chains of staying small to be accepted. Let's be real. This path isn't easy. Being chosen means you'll often walk alone. You'll crave connection, but find few who match your frequency. You'll be surrounded yet feel isolated. But that solitude is sacred. It's in those lonely seasons that your gifts sharpen, your vision clears, your spirit strengthens. You learn to hear God louder, because the noise of the crowd has faded. Rejection is often the divine's way of giving you silence, not to punish you, but to prepare you. The calling on your life is loud. You need that quiet space to grow into it. You need that rejection to strip away distractions, to refine your discernment, to remind you of who you really are. Because if everyone clapped for you from the start, you'd never know who's clapping because they love you and who's clapping because they want something from you. That's the hard truth about being chosen. Not everyone can go where you're going. Your elevation requires separation, not because you're better than anyone, but because your mission is different. You're being set apart, not cast aside. You're being refined, not rejected. Every door that closed on you was meant to. Every person who walked away was sent to. Every opportunity that vanished wasn't your destiny. It was your distraction. And here's what's wild. Once you start seeing rejection this way, it loses its sting. You stop begging people to stay. You stop chasing what doesn't align. You start realizing that the very thing you once cried over was making room for your greatness. And then you begin to rise, not with bitterness, but with clarity, not with anger, but with purpose. Rejection isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of your becoming. So the next time they reject you, remember, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the mirror you held up to their unhealed soul. You're not too intense. You're not too different. You're divinely designed. And your light will only grow stronger from here. It always starts the same. You walk into people's lives with pure intentions, with your heart wide open. You see the good in them before they even see it in themselves. You speak life over them. You support them, elevate them, believe in them. And at first, they're drawn to you like a magnet. They love your energy. They admire your strength. They're comforted by your light. But then, something shifts. What was once admiration slowly turns into envy. What once felt like connection turns into comparison. They begin to feel inadequate in your presence, not because you did anything wrong, but because being around you makes them see everything they've buried, everything they've avoided, everything they wish they could be but are too afraid to become. That's when the rejection begins, not because you change, but because your very existence started to threaten a version of themselves they were trying to protect. This is the part of the journey where many chosen ones feel betrayed. You gave love. You received shade. You offered truth. They responded with silence. You stood by them during their darkest times, but when it was your storm, they disappeared. But listen closely. This isn't about karma. It's about clarity. Rejection reveals what connection was never rooted in truth. The people who truly see your soul won't run when your light grows brighter. They'll celebrate it. But those who were only attracted to your energy because of what they could take from it, they'll find any excuse to pull away the moment they can't control or contain you. You were never meant to be anyone's emotional crutch, spiritual counselor, or unpaid therapist. But because you carry healing in your aura, broken people naturally gravitate toward you. They feed on your empathy, but few are willing to reciprocate. It's not that they don't care. It's that your depth requires them to dive into waters they've been avoiding their whole life. Most people aren't ready to swim that deep. And let's be real, it hurts. You start to question your value. You ask, why does it always end like this? You replay every conversation, every moment, wondering what you could have done differently. But here's the truth. You can't force someone to honor what they're too wounded to recognize. And you should never have to beg to be understood when your spirit speaks volumes on its own. Chosen ones are often healers, empaths, truth tellers, and that role is sacred. But it's also lonely. Because being the light means you'll often walk through other people's darkness without anyone guiding you through your own. You'll uplift others while silently battling your own shadows. And when you finally need someone to lean on, you realize most people only knew how to take, not to give. But you must understand, this rejection isn't random. It's not a curse. It's part of the refinement. You're being taught how to recognize alignment, how to set boundaries, how to preserve your energy. Because when your calling is great, your protection must be greater. And rejection is one of God's greatest forms of protection. It's the divine saying, not here, not them, not this path. So many times we pray for clarity, and then get confused when God shows it to us through loss. We ask for direction and get detours, but that detour is the answer. That closed door is a redirection. That rejection is making sure your energy isn't wasted on people who have drained your spirit dry. You're not here to convince anyone of your worth. Your value doesn't decrease because they couldn't see it. In fact, the very reason you were rejected is the same reason you're elevated. Your standards are higher. Your spirit is different. Your frequency doesn't match the chaos they're used to. And when something doesn't align, the universe will always shake it loose. Here's another hard truth. Some people love the old version of you because it made them feel more powerful. They liked you when you were broken, unsure, doubting yourself, because it kept you reachable. But now that you've started healing, growing, reclaiming your power, you've become a mirror to their stagnation. And instead of rising with you, they choose to reject you. But this is your awakening moment. This is where you stop chasing closure and start choosing clarity. This is where you realize that not everyone has the capacity to support your transformation. Some people were only meant to be a part of your pain, not your promise. And trying to carry them into the next season of your life will only weigh you down. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to stay rooted in who you are. Because the right ones, your soul tribe, your divine connections, they won't be confused by your light. They'll be inspired by it. They won't be intimidated by your growth. They'll grow with you. They won't reject you for being chosen. They'll recognize you because they're chosen too. So here's your reminder. Rejection is redirection. Every time someone walked away from you, you were being guided back to yourself, to your power, to your purpose. Stop mourning the doors that closed. Start preparing for the ones that are about to open. Because you're not just being rejected, you're being realigned. And the more you embrace this truth, the freer you become. You stop trying to fit into spaces you've outgrown. You stop explaining your spirit to people who only speak ego. You stop shrinking just to make others feel safe. Instead, you rise. Fully, fiercely, freely. Let them reject you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them go. You don't need to chase what's not meant for you. What's meant for you will recognize you instantly because it speaks your soul's language. And when that day comes, you'll understand why every rejection was necessary. There's something else you need to understand about being rejected as a chosen one. It's not always loud. Sometimes rejection wears a quiet face. It looks like being excluded from the group chat. It looks like not being invited when everyone else was. It looks like conversations that go silent when you enter the room. It's subtle, but you feel it. And that feeling, it cuts deep. You might try to rationalize it. Tell yourself they're busy, that it's all in your head, that maybe you're just overthinking things. But you're not. Your spirit knows. Your intuition is alert, and it's trying to tell you, this isn't your tribe. Not because you aren't lovable, but because your vibration doesn't align with theirs anymore. See, when you're chosen, you undergo internal transformations that most people around you can't see. You're growing in ways that make others uncomfortable, because you're not just changing your habits or lifestyle, you're evolving at the soul level. You're no longer satisfied with small talk, with gossip, with drama, with shallow connections. You crave depth, meaning, purpose, and that craving makes you outgrow a lot of people who were only ever meant to be part of your past, not your future. It's not personal, it's spiritual. Their rejection is actually an energetic mismatch being exposed. Think about it. If your soul is calling you higher, why would you expect everyone from your past to still resonate with you? They can't follow where they're not willing to grow. And your evolution shines a spotlight on their stagnation. It's easier for them to exclude you than to evolve with you. So instead of fighting for a seat at their table, understand that God is preparing your own. A place where your energy is honored, your depth is appreciated, your purpose is understood, where you no longer have to shrink, mask, or water yourself down to be accepted. Because here's the truth. Rejection makes room for revelation. It exposes what you've tolerated for too long. It brings to light the hidden dynamics in your relationships. You start to see who only clapped when you were quiet, who disappeared when you began to speak your truth, who withdrew when you stepped into your power. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That clarity is sacred. It's painful, yes, but it's also liberating. You stop wasting time on people who only show up when it benefits them. You stop pouring into empty vessels. You start preserving your energy for those who pour back. This is part of your elevation. Learning to protect your peace by walking away from what no longer resonates with your soul. And that includes environments too. Some spaces will reject your presence simply because your energy disrupts the status quo. Your excellence challenges mediocrity. Your confidence threatens insecurity. Your truth rattles false narratives. So what do? They isolate you, not realizing that solitude is where the chosen ones thrive. You see, you're not afraid to be alone. You've learned that your solitude isn't a punishment, it's a portal. A sacred space where God meets you, where revelations come, where ideas are born, where healing happens. While others need noise and validation, you've learned to find strength in stillness. That's a divine trait most won't understand, and it's exactly why they reject you. You live with spiritual eyes in a world that runs on illusion. You speak with conviction in spaces that celebrate compromise. You value truth in a society addicted to comfort. That's a rare combination, and rarity is often feared before it's respected. But here's where things shift. When you begin to embrace this rejection, not as a curse, but as confirmation, your energy starts changing. You stop chasing, stop explaining, stop waiting. You start embodying. You become a magnet for what's meant for you. Your peace becomes your boundary. Your purpose becomes your compass. Your light becomes undeniable. And suddenly, those same people who once rejected you, they watch you from a distance, curious, confused, intrigued. They see the favor on your life, but they don't understand it. They see doors opening for you that were locked for them. They see you rising with grace, strength, and clarity, while they remain stuck. And some will try to come back, but not because they've changed. It's because your light has become too powerful to ignore. They want to stand near the fire now that it's warm. But you've learned. You no longer give access just because they ask. You understand that not everyone who's sorry is safe. That not everyone who wants you now deserves you later. That's the beauty of rejection. It teaches you discernment. It helps you filter out who's meant to walk with you and who was only meant to teach you. Some people weren't supposed to stay. They were catalysts, mirrors, lessons, sent to awaken something in you, even if it meant hurting you in the process. And here's the paradox. The very people who rejected you helped you become who you are. Their silence taught you to listen to your own voice. Their absence taught you to depend on divine presence. Their betrayal taught you to set boundaries. Their dismissal taught you your worth. So now, when rejection shows up in your life, you greet it differently. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you ask, "What is this making room for?" Because every no is redirecting you to something higher, better, deeper. You're not here to be accepted by everyone. You're here to walk in divine alignment, to speak when others are silent, to shine when others dim, to rise when others settle. That kind of power comes with a price, and rejection is part of it. But let this sink in. You were never rejected. You were rerouted. Every painful goodbye was a divine hello to something greater. You're not behind. You're not lost. You're being positioned. So breathe, trust, release, and walk boldly in who you are, because rejection was never the end. It was the beginning of your transformation. You've got to remember, when God marks you as chosen, the journey you take is not going to look like everyone else's. It can't. You carry a different assignment. You were given different tools. You've got divine fingerprints on your soul, and that means your life will feel like a constant contradiction. You'll love deeply but be misunderstood. You'll give generously but often be taken for granted. You'll uplift others while carrying your own hidden battles. And still, you'll rise. Because rejection isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of protection. God isn't keeping people away from you because you're not worthy. He's keeping them away because you are too worthy to be mishandled any longer. You've already paid the price in silent tears, sleepless nights, and overextended energy. Enough is enough. You've graduated. And with that spiritual promotion comes separation. From the familiar, from the fake, from everything that doesn't fit your next level. But this season of isolation isn't empty. It's sacred. In the silence, your spirit gets louder. You start to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You recognize what you've been ignoring. You face truths you once buried. And in that honest space, your power begins to rebuild. Your discernment sharpens. Your self-respect solidifies. Your vision gets clearer. That's when you start to attract differently. Because you no longer chase validation. You stand in vibration. You no longer settle for crumbs. You wait for alignment. And you no longer tolerate being half seen. You require full presence. This shift doesn't go unnoticed. People will start to feel your absence before they ever appreciate your presence. And some of them, they'll come back, not because they've healed, but because they feel your glow from afar and want access again. But don't be fooled. Just because someone misses your energy doesn't mean they're worthy of it. Rejection taught you this. It gave you spiritual backbone. It forced you to see who's for you and who's just around you. It taught you how to pour into yourself when no one else would. It pushed you closer to God. And honestly, that's where the transformation began. You stopped begging for love and started embodying it. You stopped asking, "Why don't they like me?" and started saying, "Do I like this version of me when I'm around them?" You stopped asking people to stay and started trusting that whoever walks away was never meant to stay through your elevation. This is the chosen one's path, unapologetic shedding. You're not supposed to hold on to everything. You're supposed to release what no longer aligns. And sometimes that comes in the form of being rejected by friends, family, coworkers, even romantic partners. People who once said they'd never leave suddenly vanish when your light gets too bright for their comfort. But that's okay. You're not here to dim yourself for anyone. If your light makes others uncomfortable, let it. If your truth rattles their lies, so be it. If your elevation leaves them confused, let them wonder. You're not here to explain a divine calling to people who only understand the mundane. Chosen ones aren't just different. They're disruptive. Your presence shifts atmospheres. You walk into a room and the energy shifts. You speak and things move. You exist and people are challenged. That's why you're rejected. Because your authenticity is a threat in a world addicted to facades. And you know what else? People know who you are before you do. They sense it. Even if you haven't stepped fully into your power yet, your spirit speaks. Your frequency is loud. Your energy is undeniable. And that makes you a target, not just for rejection, but for projection. They'll project their insecurities onto you, their fears, their jealousy, their unhealed wounds. They'll say you're too much, too intense, too sensitive, too different. But that's only because you shine light on parts of them they've kept hidden. So let them say what they will. Your job is not to make others comfortable. Your job is to stay aligned with your divine assignment, to walk with integrity, to speak your truth, to live in full expression of who God created you to be. That's where your freedom lives. That's where your abundance flows. That's where your tribe finds you. Not because you chased them, but because you attracted them by being unapologetically you. And make no mistake, your tribe will come. The souls who recognize your light without fear or competition. The ones who don't try to shrink you but encourage your expansion. The ones who clap for your growth, not just your struggle. The ones who see your power and say, finally, someone who gets it. But first, the rejection must come. Because it's the cleansing, the clearing, the divine filtering system. You can't take everyone into the promised land. Some people are only assigned to the wilderness, and if you keep trying to drag them into your destiny, you'll delay it. Let go. That's the message. Let go of trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. Let go of trying to fit into spaces where your soul feels suffocated. Let go of old versions of yourself that tolerated less than you deserve. Let go of thinking rejection means you're unworthy. Because the truth is, it means you're becoming. You're becoming everything they said you couldn't be. You're evolving beyond the identity they tried to place on you. You're rising in silence, growing in grace, and leveling up in ways that don't require anyone's permission. That's the true reason you were rejected. It was never about you. It was always about what you carry. Your presence carries prophetic weight. You walk into spaces with unseen authority. Even if you're quiet, people can feel it. Even if you're kind, people can sense it. There's something different about you, and that difference disturbs people who are still sleeping spiritually. You're not just rejected because of your past. You're rejected because of your potential. You intimidate people not because of where you are, but because of where you're headed. There's something about your presence that speaks to your future, and people who are stagnant feel that. They sense your elevation. They feel your growth. And instead of rising with you, they reject you because it's easier. Because when people can't control or understand you, they label you too spiritual, too serious, too deep. But what they're really saying is, you make me confront things I'd rather ignore. They'd rather push you away than sit with their own discomfort. That's not your burden to carry. That's their mirror. Let them deal with it. What you must do now is stop internalizing their rejection. Stop assuming it's your fault. Stop thinking you need to change who you are to be accepted. You don't. In fact, the more you align with your true self, the more rejection will come. But not because you're broken, because you're breaking cycles. You're healing lineages, disrupting norms, shattering expectations. That level of spiritual rebellion, it shakes people, especially those who benefited from your silence, from your compliance, from your loyalty to dysfunction. But not anymore. You're walking away. You're choosing peace, and peace often looks like walking alone for a season. That season is powerful. It's where your roots grow deep. It's where your foundation strengthens. It's where your character is refined. So when the real blessings show up, you won't fumble them. You'll be ready. Not needy, not wounded, not desperate for validation, but whole. You'll be able to say, I lost people, but I didn't lose myself. And that is everything. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a chosen one who knows who they are. When you finally accept that your rejection was your redirection, you stop grieving what left and start preparing for what's coming. And what's coming? It's better. It's divine. It's aligned. The people who are coming into your life now will see you fully. They'll recognize your soul without explanation. They'll support your dreams without envy. They'll clap without secretly competing. You won't have to overgive just to feel worthy. You won't have to beg for consistency. You won't have to explain why your energy is sacred. And here's the thing. This version of you couldn't have existed without the rejection. Rejection built you. It stripped away the masks. It forced you to stop relying on external approval and start trusting your internal compass. It taught you to listen to God louder than you listen to fear. It carved out your character in ways comfort never could. You learned how to heal, how to detach, how to trust, how to let go, how to rebuild. You learned how to find light even in the darkest seasons, and because of that, you shine differently now. There's a softness and a strength, a knowing, a peace, a power that wasn't there before. That's not by accident. That's what happens when rejection doesn't break you. It builds you. So don't wish the rejection away. Thank God for it. Thank Him for every door that closed, every person that left, every opportunity that fell through. Not because it didn't hurt, But because now, looking back, you realize it had to happen. That version of you had to die for the real you to live. And the real you, the chosen version, that one doesn't chase. That one doesn't settle. That one doesn't cling to expired relationships just to feel safe. That one walks in divine confidence, even when the path is unclear. That one trusts God's plan, even when it requires loss. Because now you know, what rejects you is often what protects you. And what feels like abandonment is actually divine alignment. God doesn't let what's meant for you pass you by. So if something left, it's because it was never yours to keep. The beautiful part. Now you finally have space. Space for your tribe. Space for your calling. Space for the version of you who is no longer carrying rejection wounds, but wearing rejection wisdom. A version of you that doesn't flinch when people leave, because you've realized something crucial. If they can walk away, let them. They were never your anchor. God was. The pain of rejection once made you question everything. Your worth, your purpose, your identity. But now that same pain has become your teacher. It taught you not just how to survive, but how to transform. You've learned to extract power from pain, wisdom from wounds, and clarity from chaos. And this is where you become unstoppable. Because rejection no longer breaks you, it refines you. It no longer triggers your abandonment wounds. It reminds you that some doors are meant to close, not because you're being punished, but because God is protecting what you can't yet see. See, chosen ones are often born into spaces where they never truly feel at home. You're different from day one. Sensitive, perceptive, deep. You can feel what others don't say. You notice what others miss. You read energy, not just words. And that depth, it makes shallow people uncomfortable. They feel seen around you, and that scares them. Not everyone wants to be seen. Not everyone is ready to face their own reflection. And so they reject the mirror instead of doing the work. They reject you because your authenticity forces them to confront their own masks. Your love, your light, your truth, it exposes what they've tried to hide. And this isn't about superiority. It's about spiritual responsibility. You didn't choose to be chosen. You were called. And with that calling comes weight, a spiritual pressure. You're not just walking through life. You're shifting generations. You're breaking generational trauma. You're rewiring emotional patterns. You're healing wounds you didn't even create. That's not easy work. It's isolating. It's misunderstood. It's rarely celebrated. And that's why you're often rejected, because your healing journey reminds others of the healing they've avoided. Your peace triggers their chaos. Your clarity disrupts their confusion. But here's what you've learned on this journey. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. You're not here to fit in. You're here to stand out. You're not here to water yourself down for acceptance. You're here to be a bold, radiant reflection of divine truth. And with that comes a cost. The cost of being alone. The cost of being misunderstood. The cost of being excluded from spaces that can't hold your magnitude. But you've stopped begging to be included, because you've realized, when God removes you from a table, it's because He's preparing a better one. So now you sit with yourself differently. You no longer tolerate breadcrumbs. You no longer chase people who don't choose you back. You no longer sacrifice your peace for temporary companionship. You've grown. And that growth has turned your rejection into a revelation. You now understand that your value isn't determined by who accepts you. Your value is in who sent you. God sent you. He equipped you. He anointed you. And the same people who rejected you will one day say, "I always knew you'd make it." But by then, you won't need their validation. Because by then, you'll be so grounded in your purpose, so aligned with your truth, that applause becomes irrelevant. You're no longer performing for approval. You're living from overflow. This new version of you. You're not bitter. You're better. You're not closed off. You're just more selective. You're not hard. You've just built boundaries. You've stopped trying to prove your worth to people who were never qualified to measure it in the first place. Now you walk with discernment. You read energy before words. You recognize patterns before promises. You listen to actions over apologies. You've become so spiritually sharp that rejection no longer wounds you. It warns you. It lets you know, this space isn't for you. This person can't hold you. This situation doesn't serve you. And instead of resisting, you now release. And as you release, you rise. Because nothing weighs more than trying to be accepted by people who were never meant to walk with you. Let them go. Let the memories fade. Let the old versions of yourself that crave their approval dissolve. Because what's ahead of you is too divine to be dragged down by what didn't choose you. You're not going back. You've come too far. You've healed too much. You've cried too many tears. You've grown through things no one even knows about. So when people ask, why were you rejected so much? You'll smile and say, because I wasn't meant to blend in. I was born to stand out. And now you finally believe it. Not just with your words, but with your walk. You walk differently. You move with purpose. You speak with intention. You love with boundaries. You serve without shrinking. You rise without resentment. Because rejection didn't break you, it birthed you. It led you back to yourself. It led you back to your Creator. And now you understand the assignment. You were never meant to be accepted by the crowd. You were always meant to be set apart. Now that the dust has settled, now that the voices have quieted, now that the illusions have faded, you're beginning to see the truth. The rejection you faced wasn't punishment. It was positioning. All the closed doors, they were divine detours. Every betrayal, a redirection toward your purpose. Every lonely season, a sacred cocoon preparing you for transformation. See, chosen ones aren't just rejected by accident. You're rejected by design. The world couldn't contain what God was building in you. It couldn't hold your mission, your light, your energy. That's why people couldn't understand you. That's why you never quite fit in. You were always meant to lead, not follow. You were always meant to blaze your own trail, not walk someone else's path. And now, you're ready. You're not wounded anymore. You're wise. You're not asking why it happened. You're thanking God that it did. You're no longer carrying the weight of what was. You're holding space for what's coming. And what's coming? It's the alignment you've been praying for. It's the peace you never thought you'd feel again. It's the community you've longed for. It's the love you deserve. It's the opportunities tailor-made for your soul. It's the version of you that no longer needs to prove, chase, or shrink. But to get here, rejection had to shape you. It had to strip away false attachments. It had to close doors that fed your ego but starved your spirit. It had to separate you from people who only loved the broken version of you, because the healed version would have scared them. And it did. Your growth scared them. Your self-respect triggered them. Your elevation reminded them of their stagnation. That's why they walked away. That's why they turned cold. That's why they gossiped. That's why they disrespected what they couldn't comprehend. Let them. You don't need to make it make sense for them, because now you understand something deeper. Your journey isn't up for debate. Your destiny doesn't require a vote. Your worth was never dependent on their recognition. You've learned to validate yourself. You've learned to sit with God and be reminded of who you are. And the more you do that, the more rejection loses its grip. It no longer defines you. It no longer controls your emotions. It no longer distracts you from the mission. Because the mission is clear now. You were chosen to change things. You were chosen to disrupt generational dysfunction. You were chosen to bring light to dark places. You were chosen to carry divine insight, to speak truth, to walk in healing, to be the one who breaks the mold. That's not a small assignment. And rejection. It was the training ground. It was the refining fire. It was the necessary solitude where God whispered things to you that no crowd could ever echo. And now, after all you've been through, you don't just know your purpose. You embody it. You walk in it. You speak from it. You move with it in your spirit. You're no longer trying to convince people to accept you. You're inviting people to rise with you. You're no longer tolerating tables where your presence is undervalued. You're building your own table, your own platform, your own legacy. You're planting seeds that will outlive you. And it all started with rejection. That one moment that felt like the end. It was your beginning. That goodbye you never got closure from. It was your freedom. That betrayal that broke your heart. It was the push you needed to walk into purpose. So don't resent your rejection story. Reverence it. Hold it as sacred. Because it was through rejection that you met the real you. The one who doesn't flinch in the face of loss. The one who knows how to be alone without being lonely. The one who can stand in the fire and come out glowing. The one who doesn't fear silence anymore because you found your voice in it. And now that you're here, don't look back. Keep going. Keep growing. Keep shining. Because the world needs what you carry. Your light, your wisdom, your truth, and most of all, your testimony. The story that says, I was rejected, but I rose. The story that says, they didn't see me, but I found myself. The story that says, they closed the door, but God opened a gate. This is your story now. Not of rejection, but of resurrection. You are the one who came back stronger. The one who kept the faith when it didn't make sense. The one who trusted when there was no proof. And that, beloved, is why you were chosen. So walk boldly now. You've been through the fire, but you're not burnt. You're branded by purpose. Rejection couldn't stop you, because God chose you. And that is more than enough. Now that you've heard this powerful message, I want to hear from you. If this spoke to your spirit and you're ready to rise above every attack, take a moment to comment, I'm ready below. Declare your faith, your strength, and your trust in God's plan for your life. Don't forget to hit that like button if you feel inspired, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you never miss a message of encouragement, empowerment, and divine truth. Remember, you were chosen for this moment. If you want to go even deeper and support the channel, consider joining my YouTube membership for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes access, and more. Or you can use Super Thanks to show your appreciation for the effort that goes into creating this content. Your support means the world to me. You can also check out my shop tab for merchandise that helps support this channel and keeps the messages flowing. For more videos like this, click on the videos in the end screen. Let's keep walking together in faith, and as always, stay connected to your divine purpose. God's plan is unfolding, and you are part of something greater than you could ever imagine.